you've got to matchmake. You've got to, for the listeners, matchmaking means you go out and you find two fighters who are willing to fight each other and can come to terms on the money and on the timing and usually the weight class is already predetermined. And you've got to do that for like 10 to 12 bouts, meaning there's 24 people you've got to get to agree to show up on that night. How do you do that?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's get into the art of matchmaking then,
Yeah, yeah,
because
please.
I do believe it's more art than science.
Yeah,
Truly do believe that. Um, Now there's matchmaking on a local level, and then there's matchmaking on the level that we were at Strikeforce, kind of more on a national, global level where you're doing long-term promotional contracts. Like you're not going to bring a guy on just for one fight. So not only are you negotiating, you're negotiating multiple fights, exclusivity. So everything changes, and these are things I learned as I came up. Is like the pitch, everything's different now, and the way you're going to cut a deal, it all changes. But yeah, you have to build a roster, build the best roster you can, and that has to satisfy several different things. Hey, does this person sell tickets? Does this person draw media? Or this person's really exciting? And so there's several things to look at. Like every fight satisfied something different. This next fight might not have sold a bunch of tickets in this market, but it's going to determine our number one contender, for example, which is obviously very important and part of the bigger picture and the storyline that's going on. So every fight, every slot, and every fighter, you have to look at and evaluate their strengths and what the plan is. So there's a lot going on. And
yeah,
that's why I say, and you have to have this instinct and gut. Unfortunately, I was able to you know develop over the years. It's not something, again, you go to school for and
sure.
just matchmaking 101 and start approaching it. Now we have a lot more data these days, which is cool, but I still believe it's again, it's more art than science. It's more driven by instinct than it is, you know, uh, AI just throwing matchups up for us. So
Well, I think too, what one thing that's underappreciated about matchmaking, as you said, as far as determining the contender and all that, you you're building a story. Like this is a book. This is a 30 chapter book, and you're trying to literally you can't just throw a fight because you have to think, okay, if this guy wins or this guy wins, then where does that take the story? Or if this gal wins against this gal, where does that take the story? Knowing that you're writing this never ending book, um, and that's what I think a lot of people don't understand is it is so much more than, oh, these two will make a great fight. Okay, yeah, but then what is the outcome of that for the next promotion? The
yeah,
next
correct.
fight.
Correct,
Yeah,
and this is the aspect of the sport and the business where people, start making the connection to like WWE, for example, and pro
yep,
wrestling, because that's all pure storyline, right? And
sure,
but you can't ignore its importance um in our world. You're absolutely right. Like, what does this fight mean? As I mentioned earlier, as an example, well, this fight determines the number one contender, and this fighter is going to fight for the belt next, and that's why this fight's important. Or hey, here's a young prospect that we're introducing. They're making their pro debut, and this fighter could be the next big star of the sport, right? Like there's so many different things going on, and that's why you have this opportunity. You have all these slots on the card to tell these different stories, and and all those fights lead and mean something. And if they don't, then you have to take another look at it and ask yourself, is this the right matchup? So yeah, it goes. There's so much that goes into it, and then you're dealing. Earlier I mentioned some of the kind of X's and O's. Like, we have to sell these guys on a deal, come to terms, and then draft up this 30-page contract, right? And so that's the legal part of it. Those are the X's and O's on the business side. But then you deal with the human element and the ego and the bad blood, or the various different things that now it's dealing with that, the human element of the business and the drama that comes along with it. And so, hey, we have a deal, but now I have to get this guy to take the fight on this day because we need it, but he doesn't want it. And then putting it together. Hey, Showtime really needs this. Make it happen. I don't want to fight that day, man.
yeah.
Rich, it ain't happening. Well, that's not gonna work. So then you got to figure that out. So then you start developing these negotiating skills and try to be as persuasive as you can. And because you're not gonna, you know, force them for the most part. You have to find a
Sure.
way. You have to find a way.